Welcome to the Love Hub channel, where we discuss matters of the heart and give relationship advice to women. In today's episode, we are going to give tips on dating in 2023. Now, before we get to the tips, I wanted to give you a brief background of the dating world in 2023. There was a really good article that the New York Post released about how young men view dating these days. What was really shocking to me is the data from the Pew Research Center, which shows that 63% of young men under 30 are single. They are not dating. And when the article started asking all these young men, like, why aren't you dating? Why aren't you getting in the game? A lot of them shifted the blame to COVID isolation and women's high expectations. They feel that COVID really ruined the dating game for young men. And women these days are looking for something way more serious than they're ready for. Here's a really interesting quote from one of the men that they interviewed. He's a 28-year-old high school teacher, and he said, dates feel more like job interviews now, much more like, what can you do for me and where is this going? The getting to know you period is gone, and that doesn't feel so great after coming out of isolation. This brings us to our first tip. Take the time to get to know each other. I understand that women these days don't want to waste their time. They don't want to settle. They want to date with purpose. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great that you know what you want and that you're not wasting your time in dating men that you don't feel is going to give you the things that you want. That's great. But it is going to make it hard for you to find someone who will date you long term. A lot of young men these days just want to be able to get to know you before they commit to a relationship. A lot of young men aren't looking for anything too serious right now. They don't want to think about kids, settling down, raising a family, things that are really important to women. So when you do find a good guy to date, don't put a lot of pressure on him. Get to know him first. If you put too much pressure on him, you might just end up driving him away. Number 2, put yourself out there. If you want to get dates, then you need to put yourself out there. You need to be able to mingle with other people and have conversations with them. In that same New York Post article, a young man said, and I quote, "Being able to naturally approach people while out isn't like it was pre-pandemic. People are still much less likely to leave their groups or cliques at a bar. They're certainly less talkative, and that's lowered my incentive to put myself out there." He also said that he's not a fan of dating apps. It takes weeks before you can even figure out if you really want to spend time with this person. And he just felt that, and I quote, "I'd rather take all that effort and put it towards my career." So when you are out with your friends, you're at a bar, you're enjoying your time, and a nice looking young man approaches you and starts a conversation with you, don't hesitate to speak to him and try to get to know him on the spot. Now, of course, it's important for you to have a buddy system in place. You guys already know how to make yourself safe at a bar, so take note of that. But don't hesitate to get to know people. And I think that's what makes it so hard when it comes to dating in 2023. People just don't want to get to know each other anymore. People don't want to have conversations with each other anymore. It's so awkward. You don't really know what to say, and you're very suspicious of each other. And that's really going to hinder you in the dating scene. How will you be able to go on dates if, 1, you don't go out? And 2, if you do go out, you just stick with your little clique. You don't even bother having conversations with other people, men who may be interested in you. Now, we're not saying that when a man hits you up, you could just go wander off with him. Of course not. You need to be safe. But don't be afraid to have conversations with men. If you see that a guy is interested in you and you feel like you may be interested in him, it's okay to talk to him. Number 3, have realistic expectations. You already have an idea of what the dating scene is like in 2023. A lot of young men are very hesitant when it comes to dating. They would much rather put effort into their careers than date a woman who is putting way too much pressure on them or who they don't really feel like they can be serious with. You need to have realistic expectations when it comes to the dating scene. And not only that, but in the men that you may come across. So not all of the men that you will meet will be 6'3" and totally successful CEOs of their own startup companies. Especially when you're dating young men. You have to realize that these men are just starting out in their careers, so you can't expect them to be immediately successful. They can't be all wealthy. They're just starting out, and that's a reality that you need to face. This doesn't mean that you should settle for just any guy. That's not what we're saying at all. But if you do find a man who seems like a great person, he has a great attitude, he works hard, even though he's not where you think he should be, if you feel that he is somebody that you can support and encourage, why not give him a chance? You don't know where he's going to be 2, 5, or 10 years from now. With the right encouragement and support, a man who has the drive and the will to succeed can be successful. He can achieve his dreams. So have realistic expectations. If you're dating a 23 or 25-year-old man, he is not going to immediately be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. If that's what you're looking for, a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, then you will have to look for an older man. Number 4, avoid situationships. What is a situationship? It's basically a romantic entanglement that will lead nowhere. So if the reason for you wanting to date is to find someone that you can settle down with, then you need to avoid situationships. Like we discussed a while ago, don't be afraid to put yourself out there and have conversations with young men. Take the time to get to know them and just have fun while dating. Don't put too much pressure on him. In this way, you will know if what you're going to get into is just going to be a situationship or an actual relationship. Number 5, give average Joe a chance. Yes, we all want someone who is successful, who looks like Brad Pitt, who is 6'3", and all of that. The truth is, not all guys are like that. In fact, most of them aren't. A lot of successful men started out as average guys, but they got to where they are by working hard. So if you find a man who has a great work ethic, who has a lot of dreams and goals in his life, why not give him a chance? He may not be Mr. Dreamboat right now, but he does have the potential. Again, realistic expectations. We can't all get the number 1 top alpha male. It doesn't mean that the rest of the guys are worthless. Trust me, that's not true. These are just some of the tips for 2023. We hope this helped you out, even just a little bit. If this video resonates with you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below.